My name is Dominic Procasino, and this is my coaching philosophy. I really hope you enjoy it. It's got multiple parts, so sit back, relax, and enjoy. I think football coaches are more than what you see on a Friday night. They are much more involved in young athletes' lives. They're really the father figures for some people, a life mentor, a role model, just someone they idolize and they can put on a pedestal and look up to, and kind of mold how they want to be later on in life. The second part of my philosophy is that if you're getting into a coaching field, your number one priority should not be wins and losses and winning state championships. I think winning state championships are great, and they're a great incentive for players and especially coaches, because that's how coaches create job security. But the number one priority for coaches should be impacting the next generation on how to become great young men and great leaders one day. And I think that is more important than anything you could possibly teach your players. The third part of my coaching philosophy is that everyone needs to have a goal. Everyone needs to have something to strive for, especially for players. They really want to get that new max on bench press, or they really want to hit that 40 time that they're really wanting. They need something to work for. I think without that, players don't, they may lose interest in the sport, and they may lose interest in the team. You got to have them to push themselves the little distance that you need to get whatever they're striving for. My next point is coaches really need to bring the intensity. They have to set the tone for their entire program, no matter what day it is, whether it be the off season, whether it be summer workouts, whether it be 2 days. They have to set the tone of, this is how it's going to be, this is how we're going to execute it, and we're going to finish with the same intensity we started. I really want you guys to see the kind of intensity and the passion that I'm talking about. I think if players really see that fire and the intensity in your eyes, that they'll really buy into what you're saying, and they really start to buy into your program. So now here is head coach of Notre Dame football, Brian Kelly, giving a pep talk to his team before the game against USC back in 2013.
Winning's important. Somebody's going to win and somebody's going to lose tonight. You want to be a winner, or do you want to be a loser? That's all there is, man. You got to bring it up deep down inside. It can't be just go through it and it naturally happens. This is a damn tough sport, and it requires more than just going out there and executing. You need passion. You need desire. You need want. You got to have more in this game. Tonight, we're going to win. And it's a football game that we're going to win. And it's going to require everybody in here to play with effort, enthusiasm, guts, and determination. You're not going to think your way through this. You're going to have something come up from inside, because this is football. We play with that passion. We play together. We play for each other. And we play to win. We are Notre Dame. And we play that way tonight against our rival, USC.
The next point I want to make is kind of a credo that my coaches preached to me while I was playing, and it's really something that I want to preach to my future teams down the road. It's, you get better, you get worse, you never stay the same. And I think that really speaks volumes when you're talking to a football team. You can't be complacent as a football team. You can't lift one day a week. You have to stay on the grind, and you have to stay motivated to get where you want to be. You can't just be in the same place and hope to get somewhere. You have to be, you have to continue to keep moving to get to the ultimate goal. This next point I made a little bit earlier, and it's talking about players buying into what you're saying. And not only buying into what you're saying is, they have to stay the course. And I think a big part of that is the coaches have to, repeat themselves over and over and over again, almost sound like a broken record, really pounding it into the minds of their players, so that they'll wake up in the morning and they'll hear you saying that over and over and over again. Whether, it can be something as simple as you get better, you get worse, which I just mentioned, or it could be something, way beyond that. It could be just something little. It just getting your players to buy into what your program is all about is one of the major keys in having a successful football program. There's no doubt in my mind that every football team across the nation has to be tough, but tough is really the product of the struggle. And if you think about that, it's really, every team is going to get knocked down, and every team is going to be down and out. It's inevitable. It's going to happen to everybody. But it's really how your team responds to being knocked down is really the biggest thing, because once they develop the toughness, they get that grit and the willpower to keep going. They've already experienced them being down and out at the bottom. They really want to rise up from there and use that grit and willpower to turn it into something completely positive. Branching off of being tough, I think that players really need to be put in tough situations, and coaches that put their players in tough situations in the off season or in a practice setting, regardless of what it is, they need to experience it, because once it comes game time, all bets are off. And a really big part of that is players need to be immersed in competition. Competition is everything. Competition drives success. And what I mean by that is once players experience the win or experience the loss of even just a one-on-one battle in full pads between the two best linemen on the field, they'll realize, they'll take something, whether they won or they lost, and they'll apply it to the rest of their playing career. The last point I have is the love and the glory for the game. Not only the love for the game itself, but the love that the coaches and the players share for each other. Regardless of if you won or lost on a Friday night, the bond that you really have drives that win, or it will support that loss. It's all about the foundation. And then the glory, you play to win, you play for state championships, you play for the guys that are next to you, and you really let the players experience that victory for themselves. Here's my top 5 on the best quotes that apply to the game of football. Football players are temperamental. That's 90% temper, 10% mental. Doug Plank. I think that football players really got to have that edge of, playing with your hair on fire, and then a small part of it is mental on top of that. I think that if you forget the fundamentals of the game and you forget the mental side of football, that you can really get lost in the transition of everything. Number 4, if you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you have to keep moving forward. Martin Luther King Jr. I think that really applies to this sport as a whole, just because regardless of a loss or a win, you can't forget, you can't dwell on the past. You have to keep moving in the right direction, and you have to keep moving to where you want to get as a program. Number 3, I failed over and over and over again in my life, and that's why I succeed. Michael Jordan. I think that successes are really driven off of failures and the lessons you learn off of them, regardless of life or the game of football. You can apply this to any point you come across at any time. Number 2, ability is what you're capable of doing. Motivation determines what you do. Attitude determines how well you do it. Lou Holtz. I think that, attitude is a big part of what a player can show a coach. Attitude is almost everything. And, if a player's giving you really a good attitude, I don't care if he's a 5-star quarterback, in my opinion, if he has a bad attitude, he's riding the bench. I want to play the 11 guys that have the best attitude out there on the field and are out there for the right reasons. Number 1, life is a storm, my young friend. You will bask in the sunlight one moment, be shattered on the rocks the next. What makes you a man is what you do when that storm comes. Alexander Dumas. I think that really applies to not only the game of football, but life in general. You know, you can learn a lot from, you know, what you go through in your entire life. And I think really, you know, the successes and the failures make you who you are today. And, you know, everything happens for a reason, regardless of good or bad.